Hello, welcome. I'm Alicia Jane Peras. You can call me Jane. I'm a senior high school chemistry teacher in Xavier School San Juan. So for today, we'll have retooling for distance learning, but in the perspective of science education, specifically at least for my subject in chemistry. Okay. So just a very brief information about me. I graduated BS Chemistry for Teachers in Philippine Normal University, batch 2016. I also acquired my license that same year. I'm currently in my thesis writing in De La Salle University, taking up MS in teaching with specialization in chemistry education, and I'm on my fifth school year in Xavier School San Juan. I'm currently teaching senior high school chemistry and IB chemistry. Okay, so I decided to have the outline of this short video or discussion into three parts. What's on your mind? Like, comment, share, and then add the story. Okay, we have been in Facebook this whole pandemic, to update what happened and, to keep us posted of the current trends and to also update other people about what's happening in our lives. So, I mean, we are almost all online. Okay, so I kind of think of the outline of this one to make it more engaging, probably to have to follow that particular outline. So the first part will just be really about the journey that I had during the online distance learning setup. Second part are just the practices and approaches that I'm using. And then lastly, just to sum up what transpired in this video, we have the add to story. Okay? So I like dissecting things into smaller pieces. So the journey, I decided it to divide again into two parts. Okay, what is the source of all the things that happened? Okay, so it's the hashtag the outbreak, and then what I did to transition to adjust to those change to the source of the change. I call it hashtag my pandemic survival plan. Okay. So let's go first with the first part, the source of everything. Okay, it's the outbreak. So during this part, I think we can all agree that a lot of plans were canceled. The graduation of the seniors were canceled. Probably their last moments, like having recollections, retreats, and the likes were canceled. Um, I think it's around second week of March when the lockdown first happened. So some of the assessments were also canceled. So there are a lot of things that's supposed to happen during those um, part, okay, but that we weren't able to transpire because of the outbreak, the pandemic. We would like to, of course, ensure first the safety, the health of each and everyone, more than those other things. And not only this, the that part of the school year were canceled. Some of our plans of probably in the vacation, okay, and the summer were also canceled. But it also has a very great implication to what will happen to the educational system later on. Okay, so the implications of this school year, okay, it has very big impact, and even probably to our next school year. We don't know if it will be like this, at least for the school year, or we'll be going back to face next school year. We don't know. There are a lot of uncertainties, vagueness that we don't know yet. Okay? And even probably when we go back to the normal setting face to face, there are a lot of things in the face to face classroom that will be not the same. Okay, so it has really a lot of implications. And those implications, not only to the school year, to how we deal with other people, okay, and the feeling of being isolated, the just being at home, you can't really go out that often or as much as you would like to visit your friends and just all the things that's happening. It's pandemic, it's someone having a particular um you know disease. Okay, so it also affects the social emotional learning and preparedness, not only of the students but also as well as those in the educational system. in the academe. So it has also greatly affected the way how we think, the way how we respond to things that's happening, and of course it will also affect the learning styles of the student. Okay, so because of those things, okay, we can't just stay on that one. We can't just stay that um okay, there's pandemic, and so what will happen now? Yes, there are uncertainties, there are vagueness, but we can't just sit there and then just wait for things to happen. Okay, so what I did, I also plotted my survival plan on how I could still push through. I could, keep moving forward despite what is currently happening. Of course, our school and Saver, announced it will have, an online distance learning, and that is really not what I've been prepared in college, okay, to teach in like this, okay, that you'll be facing a computer and you can't really touch, see physically, or talk physically with your students, okay, or to really see how are they coping. So this is not what I studied in college. It's really different, and I think even in the trainings that we had, it's really entirely different. So I also devised my way on how I could cope up with this one, because yeah, we need to keep moving forward. So the first part, from May to July, I did the preparation. From July to October, the implementation, because we started the school year third week of July. And then now that we are on the second part of our school year in Xavier, I'm having some evaluation of what I did this July to October. Okay, so let's dissect it more probably. So during the preparation, okay, this one is really just a preparation, not only to me but actually the whole school. When they give us the platform that okay, this will be ODL or online distance learning. Okay, these are what are expected from you. Okay, so even in our team, we also devise a way on how we could address that. Okay, on how we're going to respond to what the school wants us to do. Okay, so we started with decongesting and streamlining the curriculum. What are the things that may probably just good to know that we could let go, and what are the essentials? So we focus on the lessons, the competencies, the skills that are essential, and that is um, relatable, applicable in the current situation, okay? Very empirical to the current situation. And we streamline across the year levels, okay, from junior high school to senior high school. How are we going to make it more seamless, to make it more easier also to the students? Actually, across science, we also did some streamlining on what are the things that we could combine probably as a team, as one science, okay, especially on the assessment, so that it will not be that too much to the students. What are the lessons that probably could be that you could work together, okay? Next, we have alignment of the assessment and competencies, because of course when we decongest the lessons, when we remove some of the topics and highlighted what is the important one, we need to align our assessment to that. Okay, and actually, one of my very difficult part to the transition is really doing the assessment. Okay, because later on I'll be discussing that. Moreover, we can't just do the normal way on how we do the assessment, because in chem, at least in our school, we do objective type. Okay, we'll give problem, then you do the calculations. Okay, or what is the shape of water molecule? Okay, something like that. But then of course those are Googleable. Our students can just go to Google and then the answers are there. Okay, so we really have a very big shift, I think, on how we give assessment. Okay, so we align the assessment to what is expected from the streamlined and decongested curriculum. Okay, we focus more of the skills, okay, more than just knowing the content. And then lastly, we attended various trainings and departmental meetings on how we could do this as one team. Okay, so that's what I did for the preparation part. Now, during the implementation, when I met the students, of course, it's very awkward at the beginning. I'll be very honest. I really don't know any of them. Okay, it's very difficult for me to associate their face with their names. Okay, and not all of them can turn on their cameras all the time. So it's very difficult to remember all of them. I actually don't have problems with recognizing my students, but when it's online like this, it's a bit difficult to have hundreds of students. They're just small. I have let's say we have 30 to 40 students per class. And when you are in Zoom, they're just small spaces there. Okay? So it's very difficult for me during the first part on how to call them, okay, on who is this person, and to really assess those who are excelling in the subject in the first part. Okay? And not all of the students have um, they're very different from each other. They have different backgrounds. Some of them probably carry, let's say, some of them have families who um, are struggling during the pandemic, financially or with their health. Okay, some of them are okay. So they're very varied. Their background is very varied. You can't really. It's very difficult to establish rapport to them because you are just meeting them online. Okay, it's difficult to assess how they learn. It's very difficult to assess which one needs help, to understand better their learning preferences. Okay, it's difficult to get to know them better so that you know how you can help them, because your only interaction is like this in virtual. In physical, you can see them, just walking around. You can see them how they interact with their friends. Okay, when you just go around and then in the canteen, then you'll see how they bicker or how they um laugh or play with each other. It will say somewhat their personality. But of course, this one, they're very quiet. Okay, you don't know, is he really quiet or he's not that quiet, or this person, he doesn't really, it's very difficult to really assess the personality. And that it's very important also for us on how we could help them if we could know their personality also. So meeting the students is very um it's kind of a challenge to me during that time. And more than that, not all expectations were really met. Okay, sometimes you are not on the same page with the students or with the circumstances. Okay, I'll discuss it furthermore later on. There are a lot of things that what you planned in the first part, it's very difficult for you to implement it during the implementation period. Okay. Then lastly, now that I'm on the second phase, okay, of this whole thing, um, I plan to change some of the things that I did with the preparation that I think is not applicable anymore, or I think when I did it, it's not something that would work. It's not actually efficient. Okay, so what are the things to be kept? What are the things that I need to let go? And what are the things that I need to improve? Now, I'll go to the second part, the like, comment, share. These are the things that I did. Okay, but I will start first with the sharing part. Okay, I'll share some of the struggles. Okay, so the first part is the level of techiness. I am not that old, but I'm not that techy also. So, um, it's very difficult at the beginning on the adjustment that I did, okay, with the whole thing. Okay, and I'm not actually quite happy, but it's kind of reassuring that that there are also some other people who share the sentiments as I do, or as we do, that it's not only me who at the beginning have struggles with the level of techiness. It's super techy that first you need to have a good gadget. And I have a gadget, but I don't think that it will be that efficient if almost all the period you are on your laptop, you are on your gadget. Okay? Also, even some of the basic that seems to be very important. What will be the video conferencing app that you'll be using? Will it be Zoom? Will it be, Microsoft Teams? Will it be Google Meet, Cisco WebEx, LARP meetings, or Facebook? So it's very difficult also which video conferencing app we will use, because of course I also need to learn how to navigate through that, and some of them are paid. Okay, then how to share screen. I mean the basic things on how to do it. At the beginning, of course, there is a certain level of medyo nakakatakot. Okay, medyo level of um um what will happen if I do this or like that, because you don't know what, because you are new to it. It's something that's novel. Then when the next part, which I'm also a bit afraid even up until the moment, is maintaining the digital security. Okay, because some could just, when you admit them, okay, what are they really my students, or when they enter they're probably hackers. So you mean those things are the things that it's very difficult to 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 assess, right? So yeah. And then navigating through the LMS. So in our school, we use learning management system, and LMS. We are using Schoology. At the beginning, of course, it's again something that is new. So you need to learn how to use that. Okay, and then I think we also use other assessment app in IB, and some other monitoring on the classroom management. We call it eSchoolPad. So there are a lot of LMS, there are a lot of apps that you need to learn how to use. And the fact that you'll be preparing a lot of things for online setup, and then you'll be learning a lot of other things also. So those things, Kipara, it actually makes me a bit afraid at the beginning to try. And then, creation of materials. Actually, it's later I'll be sharing some of the materials that I'm using. I'm actually a bit proud that I learned to be a bit creative on how I do my presentation. So that I think kasi later on I'll be discussing it also. It will be one way also for us to get the attention of the students. Okay, if they know that we really prepared even in our presentations. Next, second part that I'm struggling, and I'm still struggling as of the moment. Okay, one is the preparation of material, both for the synchronous and asynchronous. Before, once you enter the classroom and you have your presentation, you could just freelance on what you could do inside the classroom. When you have, okay, I still have 10 more minutes, I could give on the spot some exercises. Okay, I write more exercise. Okay, practice how to solve this, because I'm in sciences. Okay, so it's a bit easier to come up with examples. Just give them numbers. Tell them, okay, calculate the number of moles, calculate the mass of this. I know you could just randomly think of problems. But if it's online and you have synchronous session and asynchronous, you need to make sure that the materials that you prepared is enough. Okay, it's not too much, and it will not be too lenient. Okay, it's supposed to be enough. Okay, sufficient. And you'll be preparing for your synchronous session. It should be quick but impactful. So how are you going to do that? That if you have a 15, at least in our school po, we have 50 minutes, so you need to allot, let's say, 20 to 25 minutes that screen time, and then the rest will be asynchronous. So you need to make that 20 minutes very meaningful, that they will learn something from it. And when they go asynchronous, it should be short, but then they will learn something from it also. Okay, because the students can't stay very long in their gadgets. Okay, even us, we can't do that, because those are our limitations. So it's the preparation, the level of preparation is actually difficult. Okay, you we have it's actually more difficult to prepare online, in the online distance learning, more than the face to face. Exploring different teaching apps, okay, because of the limitations, to we need to make it um, efficient by having that and by having some apps that could support it. Okay, like for example, it's difficult for me to teach lessons that entails computation. So how will I teach, let's say, getting, for example, stoichiometry, getting the moles, getting the empirical formula? So usually in the face-to-face classroom, I just have my whiteboard marker, then there's a whiteboard, and I could just randomly tell them how to get the mold, by giving them the formula, and then going through how I'm going to solve it, and then let them try some examples. But in this one, even if you put it in your slides, it's actually difficult, it's more efficient for them to see that you're actually writing the solutions. At least some of the feedback of my student, they prefer really seeing how the teachers write the solutions. So I prepare videos on how I do the solutions, that they will see your hands writing the item step by step. Okay, and sometimes when you are synchronous and they ask some questions, if you are in your laptop, how can you write on the spot the solutions? Okay, so those kind of things. So there are some of the apps that I explored that I could use, so that on the spot I could ask them I could um, provide the solutions for the problems, or to draw some structures of some compounds. So those things that would help us to teach more efficient to them. And not only that, some engaging apps also that would help them sustain their level of engagement and motivation when they learn. Next, this one is actually what my favorite to do in a face-to-face laboratory activities, and some of my students are really looking forward to it. But of course, the setup is like this. So I don't want, I don't want them to do laboratory activities at home, because there are potential risks, and I'm actually not that confident about that. So what we do, we shifted to virtual laboratory activities. I'll be discussing more over that one later on. And just like what I mentioned, teaching calculations. The next step, tracking students' progress in a self-paced learning. We call this self-paced learning because they could just answer the problems that you posted on their free time, but we give them deadlines. We give them deadlines so that we will know that, okay, so they already know this particular lesson, what is ionic compounds or how ionic bonding occur. So can I move on now with the next type of bonding? So we give them deadlines. But we call it self-paced so that they could just, do it on their own. But the deadlines that we are setting, I'll be very honest, the deadlines I'm setting is kinda short. Say I will just give them like 2 days, 3 days to complete a task, or 1 week to complete a task. Okay? And then but some of them might probably prefer to do this in, let's say, one weekend, then the whole chapter, for example. That's their learning style. They would like to allot it that way, so it will make more sense when once they have all the concepts together. Okay, not the checkpoint by checkpoint. Okay, so it's very difficult to track their progress because some of them will not submit on that deadline. Okay, they will submit it when they think they were able to on their own time. Okay, so it's a bit difficult also to assess that, can I move on with my next lesson? Are they okay with the next part? Because some of them didn't submit yet. And, we can't always ask them to, we can't always ask them to, how will I say that? Okay, we need to be more compassionate and lenient, understanding in terms of their submission because of the current situation. Okay, so for me, I kind of think that will be one of my problems or struggles in the beginning, how to track of their progress because some of them really don't submit on time. Next, this one of my biggest struggles is to really administer an assessment. Usually, in senior high school chemistry, we have 20, 40, 40. We have 40% unit tests. So we have different unit. Let's say I have unit 1, unit 2, unit 3. All of them will have 1 or 2 unit tests. And then you get the average, that's the 40%. Then at the end of every sem, we have what they call semestral tests. That's another 40%. Okay, that's all the unit combined in one exam. And the 20% is an authentic assessment. Okay, it could be a performance task, it could be a case study analysis, it could be writing investigatory project. So those kind of things, the authentic part, that's 20%. But if you look at it, I always give them 80% objective type. Okay, either they solve a particular problem set, okay, or they do objective type multiple choice. okay, or short responses, short essays of explaining some concepts, those are 80%. But I can't actually do that now because it's very difficult to determine the authenticity and reliability of their answers because it's online, okay, and you are not physically with them. There are a lot of probable temptations. We would like, of course, I would like to put trust on my students, but we can't just put 100% or to bank it 100% that just trusting the students. Okay, we need to also be very, we can do some of the things that we can still do in order for us to still ensure the reliability of the test. So I really shifted from having 80% objective type, 20% authentic, into 80% authentic type of assessment and 20% objective type. I'll be showing later on how I did it and what are the kind of assessment that I prepared to them. Okay, so it's not really giving, because it's impossible to not to have a cheat proof exam. Okay, I would like to call it cheat resistant. Okay, that when once I designed the assessment, as much as possible, it's lesser chances of cheating. Okay, and it would still manifest the level of understanding of the student. And then, of course, unexpected disruptions, connectivity issues. We are in the Philippines and internet connection is not that good. It's expensive and it's not that reliable. Okay? So there are background noises of our kapitbahay or the dogs barking, a lot of other background noises. Okay? So weak signals, gadgets not working properly. So during the suddenly your computer crash or something happened unexpectedly, heavy rains. Okay, so these are some of the unexpected disruptions that become a struggle also. Then lastly, it's the limited interaction of the students. Okay, I really one of the things that I really miss in the face-to-face setup is really the interaction with the learners. I'm actually during the first part, I'm actually a bit emotional about it because you will really see it's nakakamiss to see how they learn new things. Diba? The eureka moment. It's like this pala term. It's and how they teach each other. I think it's better if you do it like that. But you can't see that anymore. At least for this one. Probably they're doing that on their own, but it's we can't witness it anymore. Okay, and when you see them in Zoom, they are already in fatigue. They just look at the screen. It's very gloomy to look at. You as much as you would like to make the ambience brighter, of course it's not like that. Okay, it's not as authentic. It's not that as bright at it as it was if it's a face-to-face interaction. So how they perceive learning, okay, some of the formation programs when you are dealing with students, the support system that you could give to them, building connections, rapport to them. It's very difficult, and most importantly, how to make them stay motivated. At this particular point, I will be giving like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, okay, to post a comment, okay, on the chat box so that we have an interaction also, even if it's like this. Okay, post a comment. See, I'd love to hear from you. So in the chat box, kindly type some of the struggles that you also experiences in your respective classes for those who started their classes. Okay, let's see if we have also the same sentiments as what I'm experiencing, or it's actually good also to see the company of other people, fellow educators, to see what are also their struggles so that we know that we are not alone. Okay, probably 1 more minute. Just type it in the chat box. What are the struggles that you also experiences? Some of the struggles that you can also relate. Okay, thank you so much for that. I'll move on with the next part. Okay, so now I'll be sharing my practices. Okay, so the first part is to ensure a cheat resistant exam. Just like what I have mentioned, I made it 80% authentic assessment, and then 20% objective type. It's not really a perfect type of exam. I don't think it's really like that. But as much as possible, this is what the best that I can do. The first part is to maintain a systematic method of administering an objective type of assessment. I did not let go of the objective type. I still give it like 20% because I think it's still important, okay, to assess the basic understanding. Okay, like just answering what is ionic bonding. Okay, that they could still compose their own explanation on how they understand that. Okay, or draw the structure of water molecule. At least they could still um, show, okay, their skills on how they draw structures, okay, or to show the computation on how they calculate the limiting reactant. Okay, at least you could see the steps on how they write it. So I think it's still important for me to see those parts. I gave it 20%, those type of objective type of assessment. But I just make sure that I have a systematic way on how to do that. So what I do, I ask a teacher to help me, at least I'm in Savior kasi we have what they call teacher companion. So in our class, we really have two teachers. One is the main teacher, then the other one is like an assist. Okay, so I create breakout rooms during the unit exam. Okay, so usually we'll have less than 20, okay, per breakout rooms. And then we will just monitor on how they take the exam. I will show it later on, an app. It's free lang and it's browser based. It's exam.net. This one. Okay, exam.net. Just go to exam.net. If you're a teacher, you can just log in using your educational account if you have. That's very helpful if you will be using your ed account. Okay? And then you can create exams there. Now, once the students log into exam.net, especially if the students will be using laptop or iPad, it's very difficult for them to move or to open tab. So whatever is their screen will be the only one that they can work on. When they, let's say for example, close the computer or when they open a new tab, they will be locked from the exam. And you'll be notified, okay, this student moved to a particular tab, so they will be locked out. And you will be the one to override it. You could give the permission whether you'll be allowing the student to still continue taking the exam or not. So you'll be notified if the students are moving in the platform. Okay, at least you are secure that they will just be on their screen and they have that. But of course, it's not perfect, it's not ideal. They could have multiple gadgets. Okay, they could have their parent in front of them. You don't know. Okay, giving them the answers. They could have notes there. But at least I did my best on how you could assure that they will just be staying in one screen. And they are in the breakout room, so you can easily pinpoint them. I'm using Zoom. Okay, so they should be in a video conferencing app, Zoom. I create breakout rooms so that we have smaller numbers per student that you could look at. Okay, so you can see them while they're taking the exam. And our platform is exam.net. Second, I use hypothetical questions. Okay, the things that they may not, if they search it on, let's say, in the internet, they can find answers because these are hypothetical questions. I'll be showing you examples of that. And then lastly, careful planning of some authentic type of assessment. Okay? I'll be sharing also some of the authentic type of assessment that I use. The one that I use, I can't show it here because it shows the names of the student. But I asked them to make an e-portfolio. Okay, so the e-portfolio has some parts. So one of the parts there is the reflections in their journey as they learn chemistry. Okay, so they will narrate there what are the things that they find it difficult, what are the things that they enjoyed, they would like to stay, and how they learn better, and their general insights about the subject, okay, and about chemistry, learning chemistry. Second part is assessing their understanding. So I gave them a particular case analysis. I prepared 4 case analysis. They'll just pick one, okay, that they think will show their level of understanding. So I empower them by giving them the choices. You pick which case analysis will show most your understanding of the lesson. So once they do that, okay, of course, they need to research about it, to supplement it with our lessons, okay, and to be as creative as they can on how they could express the ideas. And of course, it should be scientifically correct. Okay, so it has actually hitting two birds at the same time. When I see the reflections, it could also help me evaluate what are the things that I can use on second phase, now that we are on second semester. Okay, so what I can keep, what I can let go, based at least for the majority of the students, what how they perceive learning. And then also, um, the case analysis will actually help me see how they can communicate. Okay, my other assessment is um, writing a paper using secondary sources of data, because they can't experiment. That's actually one of the things that we think of. They can't experiment, so how they're going to write a scientific paper? So what we did, we asked them to get available secondary sources of data, and then from those data, they make problems. So for example, okay, they have data of the COVID cases in the different countries. So what they can do about it? Okay, what are the things that they can do? So they could ask, well, the level of um, the rate, for example, the rate of the COVID cases, okay, in this particular country, and no, for example, okay, this one. For example, I ask some of the data they have there are the different types of mask. Okay, like the N95 or the surgical mask, for example, that one. They have data that you could just look at in the internet. Okay? So what are you going to do with those data? They could create a problem from that. Which among this mask is most safe to use, or has a greatest protection against COVID-19? We all know which one is the best one among all of those types. Is it the cloth, the N95, the one with the valve, or is it the surgical mask? But even if they know it, they need to support it with their paper. So they could still express their level of scientific understanding. And actually, I'm very impressed of what they can write, okay, based on the abundant data that they have, secondary sources of data. It's actually a very good one. I asked them to create a poster to summarize the data, that if you will be an audience and you will see this poster, okay, of their study, you will learn something from it. And then their study are very comprehensive also. I'm actually a bit emotional again when I saw their output, because they were still able to put their heart on it, especially their portfolio. When they narrate their journey now, what is it to just learn while you are at home? Okay, actually, it's not just chemistry, but their learning experience um, as a whole, and then how they translate that to their case study analysis. Um, yeah, that's what I did with the authentic type of assessment. For the objective, these are some of the examples that I have. So, for example, for number three question, I did not ask give properties of ionic compounds. Okay, I just ask them identify which one will have a higher melting point, the highest melting point. Of course, if it's ionic compound, usually they are the one that has the highest melting point. So they need to know the structure in order for them to know which among them will have the highest melting point. And for the next item, there are hypothetical elements W, X, Y, Z. They don't need to have that element in order for them to create an ionic compound, in order for them to create a covalent compound. They just need to know the valence electrons. Okay, so it's really just knowing the concept and then applying it whatever is the circumstances. Now there is this one. Suppose you live in a universe where Pauli's exclusion principle. Okay, so I try to give them um, possible scenarios. Okay, again, just knowing the concept, what will be the implication if, for example, you tweak something on the the scenario. And then for the multiple choice, I don't really give them an element. I just give them letters to represent it. As long as they know the concept, they will know which one will be an isotope. So I think these are the things that they can't Google. They can't do that. As long as they know the concept, they can answer it. So I think at least the kind of questions that we can construct will help on how they could exhibit their understanding. It's also one of our practice exercises. I just give them hypothetical letters and then try to create a structure using this QRST. Then, yeah, identify the angle, the polarity, the geometry, just by knowing the number of valence electrons. Okay. So again, for my performance task, I ask them to write a scientific paper using secondary sources of data. Then I have what we call alternative assessment. It's an alternative to our semestral test, so I call it alternative assessment. It's an e-portfolio using our school's LMS. Some of the apps that I use, I don't really use a lot of apps. I just use what I can. Okay, I think it's not really the quantity but the quality that it can go to the students. For activities, laboratory activities, I use FET Colorado. They have a lot of free virtual laboratory activities. I think you can use it if you are in chem and physics, especially physics actually. For video like this one, I just use Canva or Loom. In Loom, it's like this. You can have your presentations. You just, present it. Then you have your small face so that they could see that you're the one speaking. Okay? So if my lesson is about computation, I usually have this one. Either Loom or screen capture because I need to write something. For curation of video, you have a video, for example, then you would like to assess the understanding per part. So I use Edpuzzle. So for example, it will discuss a particular video that I got in YouTube. It will automatically stop and will pose a question. Okay, so I use Edpuzzle so that while they're watching it, it's interactive and they could assess their understanding. Then for quizzes, to make it lively, I use just either Kahoot or quizzes. In Sabre kasi all boys so they're competitive for this one. So they like doing Kahoot or quizzes. Then, I think kasi for the first part, if you are not in online learning or if everything in your school is already laid out, like this should supposed to be the curriculum, this should be the assessment. I think what we can do is at least start on how we could connect with the student. Okay? The first one, what I do is to empower them by making them realize that we are partners. We are not your enemies. Okay, we're supposed to help each other. Okay, that we would like to help you learn, but we also need to see you that you are willing to learn and that you also respect us. Okay, that we can't just stay like this. Okay, we need to keep moving forward. Okay, it's really difficult, but that's it. Okay, it's really difficult, but we need to get over it. Okay, we need to know how we can deal with that one. Okay, so I empower them that help me know how I can help you. Okay, we're supposed to be partners. If you learn this way, let's see what I can do to compromise, or if not, let's meet halfway. And of course, to listen to them and to respond that we have an aim to help them, not to just, invalidate what they would like to say. Sometimes they want to be heard. The generation now, they really want to be heard. So by giving them some chances of being really heard, okay, and to really show that we care about them, I think they will be very much cooperative also on how they will respond to it. Okay? So in a nutshell, this is really a very challenging journey to all of us educators. This is one of the milestones that we could add in our experiences, that it's really entirely different. It's not what we study in the books. It's not what we study in college. It's really difficult. It's really different. So in a nutshell, it will not be perfect. Okay? It's okay that it's not perfect, that what we plan is not what we're going to transpire. It will actually help us to learn from those experiences on how we could do something about it, how we could be flexible. I'm actually surprised to see how I cope up with this one. And then that's why I realized that, okay, I can do things like this pala. Okay? So we just need to learn to let go and to grow from those processes. Understanding both sides of the story, that Of course, we are teachers, we have our own story, and our students also have their own stories. Our administrators have their own stories, and we are facing a pandemic. So we have all different kinds of stories. So we need to learn first how we could also see the the things first before we react about it. Okay? Because sometimes we are all human beings, so nadadala tayo ng emotion. And sometimes it will affect also our level of rapport to the people around us, especially to our students. So, and it could be the start of some either a misunderstanding or an understanding. Okay, so it's very crucial also to to build rapport, even if it's online, even if it's modular. That yeah. And then, of course, focus on what is essential, not as what is fancy. Sometimes we'd like to have a lot of things to give to the students, or I think it's important for them to know this. But I learned, at least for this journey, is to focus on what is essential for them to know, rather than I think it will look good, it will look cool, it will look so smart if you can answer this kind of question, okay? Or something that's fancy. So at the end of the day, it's really what is helpful for them in the future. Okay, so I think that's it. So thank you so much for listening to this one. I'm looking forward to see you later on. Thank you.